Myself, Arun Kumar. Today we'll be discussing about understanding the process of data collection and storage. But knowing only the process of data collection and storage, it does not give any sense. You know a lot of things, but you don't know where to apply that and what to do with that. So my way of like research and the teaching and everything is like link that to something. So in upcoming slides, you will see. So here we are going to link that with a nano generator and some self-powered application. So we will be discussing some instruments, nano generator, self-powered application in the upcoming slides. So today's schedule is we are going to see what is a biomechanical data collection and analysis process, and we'll see why it is needed and why it's like that, and how to do that. So and then finally, I don't know whether you can see this. Okay, and finally, I wanted the presenter able to prepare or develop an idea or work on this particular field by using this kind of analysis technique. Okay, so that is the main intention of the talk today. Yeah, so let's start with the data collection. So we'll start some basic parts of data collection. So we know that every day we collect a lot of data. The data is one of the most important process or like important thing that we do in every day. You just take your mobile phone every day you input maybe one or two phone numbers, at least one phone number and one email ID, and you some like a photo. Definitely, you take a photo every day, at least one photo. You post in your Facebook, Instagram, and now smartphones are there. You keep your finger, you take your SpO2, heartbeat rate, ECG. Now what smartwatches they collect ECG data, right? Everything what you do is a kind of a data collection. So average a person, at least he collects some data, like around 5 to 10 data every day. And a professional like us, it may be engineer or it's a doctor, it's maybe an arts and science, whatever the thing, everyone started to depend on a data set. That data in the sense, if you take a doctor profession, especially this COVID situation, at the starting we were not having any literature, we were not having any previous data. So it took a long time, like, but we did it fast, but we tried to depend on some data, and then we can go and treat the patients, right? So like that, as an engineer, as an electronics engineer, an electrical engineer, for us, some set of electrical data, some data is very much essential to do a work without obstacle. That reduces the time that you take to invent a new thing or to interpret something. So everything, it needs a data. And by using that data, especially by using the past and present data, you can predict the future, right? You can suggest something to the future, and you can develop something for our well-being in the upcoming days, right? So that's why data collection is very much important. And nowadays, everyone started to run behind like data, sorry, AI, artificial intelligence. But a lot of us, like especially the new students, they don't know about the importance of like the sensors, the way the sensor collect the data. Rather, what they do is they depend on data sets. They are not ready to understand or know about how, like how the data is collected. It's very important for a faculty like to teach or to make him understand that using the existing data set will help you to do something which is known, but something is new. For example, we were not having the situation like COVID, so now the scenario is entirely changed. So what happened? Something that related to treat or to manage or control or something for this COVID, we were not having, right? So we need, at that time, we need a sensor that collects the data regarding this virus or this scenario, and then you enter into the AI system, then you get some big data or some like like the results, but the students are not understanding the importance of sensors, the data collection. So we have to make them understand about the sensor. So that is the base. Okay, so let's go to the starting data collection thing. So normally when you see a blank, if you're not if you're not an engineer or you're just a layman, if something that comes in your mind, data collection is something. We do an interview some person, so you collect something and you observe something happening around you, and the survey they give in the like roads, they give some like a paper and they collect some data and usage of data and focus some groups. So these are all the basic data collection tools. But when you come to a engineering, a professionalism, and there we use some kind of sensors or some equipments that helps you to convert the biological signal or the some physical signal into an electrical signal, right? So I took a scenario here. It's a biomedical data collection because I mainly focused on biomedical wearable and portable devices. So here you can see that a patch that is placed on the chest that helps to record the heartbeat, ECG or EEG, ECG, and that also helps to understand a lot of the breathing pattern, like if rhythmic response from your heart is there. So if these sensors help to get the data and to send through the mobile device or to a computer through Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. A lot of technologies are there that helps to communication. Okay, so through any one of this medium, we are trying to get this data, and it goes to the like for example the patients relate the one the parents or the bystander, and also the data goes to the doctor, so he gets a immediate treatment, and also we can predict something that's going to happen in the future. So this is a simple advantage or a good part of data collection. There are a lot of negative parts are there for data collection that I'm not going to enter now, but let's see the good part. So if everything is secured, your data is collected, all your body like biological data are gathered, and it goes to the doctor, and you get the best treatment, and the recovery time is less. Okay, so let's see the data, the gadgets that we use, especially as a engineers, we use a lot of gadgets are available in the market, but I'm going to name a few. The one most important thing is known as national instruments. So these are all like research based instruments I'm talking here. Apart from this, nowadays the students or a lot of researchers, they use Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and also Node MCU. These are all the small chips, like small microcontroller boards they use to collect some data. By using that board, they connect with some temperature sensor, humidity sensor. So that is a different path. Okay, now let's see a little like in the part of research. So here we normally use a national instrument, NI instrument DAC, data acquisition module, and we have data translation system. Then Keysight is another company. K3 is an instrumentation company which provides a lot of electrometers, voltmeters, nanovoltmeters, nanopicometers, and also there are this for multiple channel we can collect the input. For some experiment, you need a multiple channel for collecting data. And so what happened here? So you can see here, this is an ultrasonic sensor which is connected to a normal oscilloscope. Here, an oscilloscope is also a a device that helps you to collect the data. Nowadays, the oscilloscope, digital oscilloscope, comes with a pen drive, or directly you can connect with a GBIB cable to the system. You collect the data. So that's how you collect the data from any sensor. Okay, now let's see the starting point of the uh, data collection and the sensor. Okay, so as I told that this data collection process starts with the sensor. That is the most important thing. So the sensor is the one thing which converts a physical form of data into an electrical signal. We get an analog signal, and this analog signal again we further process and do some signal conditioning or some noise cancellation, this process, and then we convert this analog signal into a digital signal. And this digital signal then we use as a like codes or so it can switching process. So it depends on the application. Here we can see a small block diagram. It uses this is a physical system which inputs the data, a transducer which converts that into an electrical signal. So you get a noise signal, and then we use a conditioning circuit which which reduces the noise by using a lot of filters. There are a lot of filters, low pass filters, band pass filters. So that goes in deep. Okay, so by using some kind of filters, we condition the signal, and then we convert into an by using an ADC, analog to digital converter. We convert this analog signal into a digital signal, and finally we get the code. Okay, now why this measuring this data device is very important. Okay, I'm going to ask a question. If someone can answer, anyone knows after seeing this image, can you able to anyone knows what is this? Anyone can answer. So if their mic is there, anyone can answer.
Disaster.
It's not clear. Hello.
A disaster in Japan. Nuclear.
Oh, it's okay. Disaster in Japan. Anyone? Any other person? Anyone? Any other faculty can answer.
Satellite transmission.
Satellite transmission. That looks like a satellite transmission. Okay. Anyhow, I clicked the slide. I tried to enlarge it, but okay. Actually, this is a disaster, but not in Japan. It's a Chernobyl. It's a it's globally known disaster. So and if you go to HBO, you can see this. So not in HBO, sorry. It's in Hotstar. I suggest my students when I take chemical sensor lecture, I give them as an assignment to watch this web series. It's not a web series. Yeah, it's kind of a series, 6-7 episode. Definitely, as a researcher, as a faculty, you should see this series so that you can understand the importance of engineer, especially as an electronic engineer. How to handle how important that you should you should know to handle an instrument, especially the measuring instruments. Okay, so now let me explain one instant that why I told this is in this scenario, in this disaster, the one part what happened after the disaster, the radiation releases. At that point, what happened? They were carrying an instrument. It's called like a Muller instrument that measures the radiation, that nuclear radiation. It's the units is Roentgen something. Okay, so they were having an instrument which can measure up to some 10 or 15 Roentgens or something. Yeah. So what happened? That engineer or that person, that man who works there, he carries that and he tells that here our radiation is just 15 Roentgen or something. Okay. But what happened after some like 1 or 2 hours or some hours of time, some place, like some other place staying some 500-600 kilometers away from this particular scenario that disaster happened, they can sense radiation there, and here they are telling their radiation is very less. What happened there is that person was carrying an instrument that can measure only up to some 10 to 15 Roentgens. So he thinks that this is the level of radiation here. But what happened when they bought a higher instrument of around 20,000 or 20,000 or something? Again, that showed the maximum value of that instrument. Again, that person is thinking this is the radiation level in this area. So who is wrong there? The person is not exactly knowing to handle the instrument, right? So whenever when you go to measure something new, and something you like has a higher value, you should be equipped with a measuring or a data acquisition system which can capture that data, because some data will have a frequency, like different frequency. If you are going with a low frequency instrument to measure a high frequency instrument, you won't get the proper data, right? And also the impedance, that is the most important thing. The impedance of the measuring instrument is a very important, the most important thing when you go to measure an electrical signal. I'll tell you what's happened in my research. Okay, so I'm going to follow a approach of 3L. So it is learn, link, and leap. So today we learn and we try to link it with that nano generator field, and we interpret, and then we try to develop our own system. Okay, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time in the introduction. So the nano generator is a new field. So there are two types of nano generator. One is triboelectric and piezoelectric. Triboelectric follows the electrostatic principle, and piezoelectric is a dipole orientation. The change in dipole gives you a potential difference. Okay, so here we can harvest the energy by wind, vibration, blue energy, biomechanical energy, and these are all the fields that we can use for we can harvest the energy, even the breathing, wind, wave, body movements, traffic, airflow, and a lot of applications are there. Implantable device, wireless sensors, nano sensors. So these are some applications. Today we are going to see only one particular thing, the body motion, the biomechanical energy, by using triboelectric and piezoelectric both. Okay, so why the nano generator? Because we need to develop a eco-friendly energy source which try to minimize the energy, the pollution in the our environment. So the nano generator, the tribo and piezo are almost eco-friendly. So we are trying to use the material that like a biocompatible material. Okay, so that's the main aim of nano generator. So today we are going to see the nano generator and the measurement system. Okay, so this is the market analysis. So you can see by 2027 triboelectric nano generator will excuse me, just a minute, sorry. So sorry, can you able to see the slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, by 2027, there is a chances for overtaking other energy harvesters, like even the photovoltaic and other energy, renewable energy generators by piezoelectric and triboelectric. There are some chances. The study shows in such a way. Okay, so the energy source here you can see the solar, thermal, mechanical, and biomechanical. So today we are going to see this mechanical part. So this has an energy output density of around 10 to 100 milliwatt per centimeter square, this one. And the main pros of this kind of device is it's abundant, this biomechanical energy or mechanical energy, whatever the wind, it's abundant in the nature, so you can use that energy to develop, means to harvest or convert into an electrical energy. And the one con we have here is it is an AC output, not a continuous output. Compared to a solar cell output, you get a continuous DC. Directly you'll get DC, but here you'll get an AC. So we need to convert this AC again into a DC. So that again makes some losses. So we are trying to overcome that by research of directly develop a DC from the device. So that research is also going. Okay, so compared to the other device here, the power density is higher compared to the solar, thermal, and biochemical devices. Okay, so now we are going to see these two parts, piezoelectric and triboelectric. Here the harvesting principle is one is piezoelectric effect, and triboelectric it is contact electrification and static electricity. And the impedance type, it is a capacitive type device. Okay, and the both has a good like lot of pros, and one thing is easy to scale down to nanoscale. And here in the tribo, the large output power, high efficiency, and the most important thing here is it's low weight, cost effective, and it's very easy to fabricate. I'll explain you in the upcoming slides. And the cons here is, as I told, that it's a pulsed signal, for example, AC signal. So that is one drawback here. And the most important thing, as I told there, high impedance, high matched impedance. That is a one important thing with the problem with this device. So when you measure this device, you need a high impedance meter or a gadget. So that's what I'm going to explain in the upcoming slides. Okay. So, okay, this is just a comparison between an electromagnetic generator and triboelectric. And here again, you see that here this is a low, here this is a low impedance device and this is a high impedance device. So the instrument that you use to measure the electromagnetic generator is not suitable to measure, and I'm not telling it's not suitable. To get a perfect output or anything, you need a high impedance device to measure a triboelectric nanogenerator. And just a survey, in India, mainly 2 institutes were previously working. It was around 2017. Now a lot of institutions started working. Even VIT, we have a full-fledged working on this research. And also 5% of contribution is only from India. So we need to expand this research. Okay, again, the introduction here for the nanogenerator. So I just take a minute. So here the conjunction is between the triboelectric and electrostatic effect. So as I told that this you can do it for a large scale, and also you'll get a good energy conversion efficiency. So that's the reason we are working on this particular device. Okay, so the triboelectric nanogenerator works on 4 different modes: but contact and separation, sliding, freestanding, single electrode. Here, depending on this material which we select, one with high positive polarity, the surface charge, and other with high negative surface charge. The combination of these 2 materials will help you to generate more or convert more energy. Okay, so there are a few different research trends. So I follow the application aspects. Few researchers follow material aspects. They try to find new materials. For example, MOS2, some MOF, metal oxide framework. So new material they try to develop to try to introduce for this energy harvesting. But my aspect is application. So I use mostly commercial polymer materials, existing materials. I try to fabricate the device and we study for the application. Okay, so that's my approach. And here they tell energy conversion efficiency is around 85%, but this is without any load. So we are trying to really achieve this 85% of energy conversion efficiency, because as I told that this is an AC conversion to DC, right? So there are a lot of losses. So we are trying to overcome this scenario. Okay, so the experimental hurdles, as I told that stability, stability is one thing, structural optimization, real-time analysis, and we are going to see here the electrical result, the deviation in the electrical result. This is one thing where the measurement system comes, your data acquisition. Depending on the data acquisition, your data, that measurement will vary. That you should match the impedance and you should properly connect the device, or else you'll get a random output. Okay, so and also when you integrate nanogenerator with a charging device, there the impedance again plays a major role. So we need a power matching circuit, then you can connect it to a energy storage device. Okay, so these are all the electrical or data collection instrument that I personally used and familiarized. So one is Kaitlin nano voltmeter. Here this device has a high sensitivity, 1 nanovolt sensitivity, and typically noise is less, and also the next thing is, and one thing is, this device input impedance is around 100 mega ohm impedance. Okay, so keep this term in the mind. I'll explain you why I stress that that number. Okay. The next one is picoammeter. So here this is this ammeter can measure, picometer, and measure up to 1 femtoampere, and the current maximum it goes to 20 milliampere. And these two equipments are really good when you make a sensor-based studies. And sometimes I suggest that this nanometer is not meant for a nano generator, especially triboelectric nano generator studies, because the nano generator is the one which has a high impedance. Okay, so for that we need a device or the instrument that is an electrometer 6517A or 6514. So these electrometers have high resistance up to 2 tera, up to 2 tera ohm, like that. It has an input impedance. Okay, so that is a best equipment to work with a nano generator, especially for tribo as well as piezo. That doesn't matter, but when you measure a high impedance device, you need this kind of equipment. And then you have a low noise power amplifier, preamplifier, because sometimes the nano generators electrical output, especially the current output, will be very less. And when you go for some sensor application or sensor study, the noise will be more. So we need to separate the noise, or we need to reduce the noise, and you need to get the actual signal. At that point, you can use low noise power amplifier. And then a data acquisition system. This is a little higher end. If you're going to do a multiple input and you want to do, then you need this kind of a national instrument system. So it is a 24 pin digital IO line device of 32-bit counter, and also it gives a good speed of data communication up to 12 megabytes per second. And I think newer version also is there by USB 3, but it's very expensive. So these are all the devices which we use for this application, for this study. Let me see what study I did and how it performed. So, okay, before that, for making the nano generator, we need a sputtering device, thermal evaporator, spin coater. Not everything is required for making a device. It depends on what device you are making, what type of device for what application. Okay, so these are all the important equipments that needed for a nano generator development. So today we are going to see the biomechanical energy harvesting. So biomechanical in the sense, we have a lot of motions, right? Body motions, like your elbow, wrist, knee bone, your neck movement, jaw, even your eyebrow blinking. So everything comes under some biomechanical, right? Some motion that you do with your body parts. So we'll see how we can make a device, how we can collect the data, and what are all the things we can interpret from the devices. Okay, this is a simple device. I'm not going to explain in detail about the fabrication technique because we have a limited time, 30 more minutes. So I'll just go a brief. This is a triboelectric nano generator we fabricated by using an IDT electrode. On top, we paste a Kapton, and the contact material is a cloth which comes in contact with the device. So what we did, this is a SEM electrode. We did some surface modification since we need to create a roughness. So this is an FESEM image. So we did a plasma treatment and we created a surface roughness. This surface roughness will enhance the energy, the property, the surface charge, enhance the surface charge. So that helps you to get more electrical or like output. Okay, now as I told that here some material comes in contact, you get an electrical signal. So here I used Keithley nano voltmeter, which was a device, like instrument which was having around 100 mega ohm of internal impedance. So this thing device is, as I told that, this is the device which has higher impedance. But at that time of my research, I started in the early, it was my, I initiated the research in our lab. So at that time, we were having only nanometer. So what I did, I developed a device. I connected with a, what you called electrometer, sorry, nano voltmeter, and I obtained here around 5 volt, around 4 volt for the bus card, the material in contact. When newspaper is a highly positive material and Kapton is highly negative material, the opposite charge. Okay, please remember that. So when the opposite charge comes here, you get more output. So here I obtained around 13 volts, and here the current was around 1.75 microampere of current was obtained in this one. So at that time I used a nano voltmeter and pico ammeter, and the power, as I told, that here we analyze and we find the whatever the device we fabricate, we will first study the load matching or impedance matching studies. Here I found that around 10 power 7, it's around 100 mega ohm, I get the maximum power. But as per the like some rule, the previous studies, we tell that the device will give higher, like it has a higher impedance, right? So what happened in the upcoming studies, I tried to introduce a new device, like instrument, to study this devices. Okay, so I'll explain that in the upcoming slide. So here, this is one application. Now I told which the instrument which I used, and here what I did, I connected 4 devices. The device will look like this. Okay, this is the device. So that device I connected 4 in a like series, and this device work in a single electrode mode. Okay, so what happened when a person of 75 kilogram wearing jean, we fix this on the seat. Whenever he sit and stand, this is a like whenever he sit and stand, what happened? He can generate up to 60 or 50 hertz. When you connect 4 devices, you can generate up to 60 volts. This is a DC voltage. Okay, and whenever the person is around 55 kg, and the output is again reducing, and here it is 65, it's somehow like 20, 25, and again this is also more or less same. So what this denotes is, depending on the material, all we're wearing the same jean. Okay, so depending on the force and the way he sit and stand, the electrical output is varying. So by using this result, you can study the motion analysis of a person. For example, if a person is like some physical, for example, we'll take a paralysis patient or something. You're giving a lot of physiotherapy or physical treatment. So by using this instrument, if we sit and stand, by using this electrical data, you can understand, you can know whether there is any improvement for that person by this treatment, right? So this is one approach by using this instrument. And here, the next data which we can obtain here is the same device we fixed in the phone, we kept in the backside of the phone. And what happened? We kept that in the pocket of the demonstrator. So what happened? He used to walk, run, and sit and stand, right? Sitting. So this data, the same data you can see here, the electrical data, we used a Fourier transform harvester, like Fourier transform analysis in Origin, just Origin software. This is a very good software. Most of you know that, but a lot of you use in the top layer. But once you go in depth, Origin is one good software. You can do plenty of things. The whole my data here you see today and my whole publication, I used only Origin. Okay, so what we can do is, in the Origin, you can interpret this data, and if you do the Fourier transform, it gives you the frequency of this data, whatever the process you do. So by using this simple voltage or current signal, we can understand the frequency or motion of that particular patient or the person who takes that or do that that demonstration. So this helps a lot in a medical field, a biomedical field. So you can identify the frequency, motion, and how fast he is moving, everything you can see by using just this device. So for this, we used an electrometer. Sorry, this is for nano voltmeter. And from nano voltmeter, we took the data in the format of CSV file, and then we inputted in Origin software, where we did Fourier transform analysis. Okay, then you get these data. This is for walking, it is around 1.2, 2.48 for running, and 1.28 for sitting. So if you have any doubts, you can count here the sitting, exactly this will match. Okay, so that accurate is Origin software, that Fourier transforms. Okay. Now this is an application. I don't know whether it works here. Okay. This is another interesting application. Without battery, we connected to a logical circuit with the 4 different devices and a LCD device, LCD display. So whenever the person sit and stand, the display automatically shows the position number. And the next thing is, instead of using a battery, we used a small capacitor here. Normally, this is used in the Korean buses. To stop the bus, you have to push a button, but once you push, the light will glow and the sound will come. So we tried the same system. We connected the device in different seats. Whenever the person sit and stand, the energy is generated, it's stored in the capacitor. When you press, immediately the charge will release, the LED will glow. So that's how it's a simple, like a self-powered device. Okay, let's see the next device. So here, the previous thing, the same device which I used in the previous paper, here we used, but the difference here is, there it is a single electrode device, here it is a 2 electrode device, and the same contact material, nylon, cotton, jean, everything is same. But the approaches, like the construction of the device, I changed a little. Okay, that's the difference. And we published this in a nanoscale. It came as a front cover page also, and we filed a patent for this one. And see here, for this experiment, I used K36514 electrometer. Here, the device impedance is around 2 tera. So at this point, you see that the output is increased up to 150 ohms. Right? So what happened? You get a better performance when you use a perfect electrometer, a perfect instrument to measure the device. So here for sliding mode, and this device works in 2 different modes. One is sliding mode, the other one is contact and separation mode. And here you can see the power density, the low, like impedance matching. What happened? Now it increased up to 10 power 8 or 10 power 9, up to nearly 10 power 9. That means near to giga ohm or 500 mega ohm. The power load matching has been shifted, right? So this is why we need a perfect instrument. Before you go measure a device, you should understand the device capability, like the device nature, behavior, and your instrument's nature and its capability. Without knowing the capability of these both, you just take something and you measure, you're not going to get a perfect or the actual data. There will be some deviation in your data. And apart from this, we measure, we measure the force analysis, the same electrical voltage we'll get, and we'll convert this electrical data and we input and we make a formula, and we can make it as, if it is 120 volts, we substitute it to 10 Newton, 30 Newton and 50 Newton. So we make a force analysis. So the same electrical signal we are using, and we are using it for a force analysis. Okay. So apart from this, the same device, this is a self-charging device, like charging, not self-charging. Like previous, the capacitor will charge and discharge, right? For emergency purpose, you can use this device. It can charge, and whenever you need, you press, the LED will glow. Instead of the flash in your mobile phone, you can use this self-charging, self-powered device. Okay, so charging and discharging will happen. So the next important thing here is, the same device, we can use it for a pedometer. So nowadays, inbuilt pedometer is there. Pedometer is coming in the mobile phone, but our concept is, see here, we are having only electrical signal, the voltage signal. From that, we are converting into a pedometer. How? For one operation, for one step, you will get this one peak. So this is for around 19 steps. You got 19 peaks, right? So this is the So this is the complete thing. So what happened? We take the time taken for that one, like the operation, and also the distance covered and number of steps. By using that data, we can calculate the distance traveled and also the speed he traveled. So just using an voltage signal, we can get the data of the person who travel in his speed and the distance travel. Is that clear? Any doubts or anything? Can I go to the next slide? Okay. So the next application here is we use same electrometer to analyze this. We made a small circuit to transfer the power transfer. You get a here you can see that the device working. So this is a like a coil with a small distance. Here in this you can see the analysis system which we used. Um, when we sit and stand, here you can see that we have, this is the electrometer here, and the bottom you have a picometer and you have a nanovoltmeter, and this side is the one preamplifier. And this is a software which normally we use softwares made up of the National Instrument or LabVIEW. LabVIEW is one good thing to get this data, and here you get the data which you the output of that device. Okay, and then this is saved in the form of CSV, and then we import it to Origin and we do all our analysis. Okay, and then this is another thing. It's a freestanding backpack. I'm not extending that making. So here what we did, we connected the device in the backside, and whenever you do the physical operation, it harvests the energy, and also you can understand the person's walking pattern, running and bending behavior. So that is one good advantage by using this device. And also this is patent is filed, and we received a patent also, registered patent. And here this another thing is a funny thing, but I don't want to show the video now. It's a battery-free electronic toy, and this is two different toys. Both are registered as an international patent. And here you see that it's a simple puzzle. The device is less than 1 gram of weight, and it's completely bendable device. And here you see that we can able to understand the how fast, whenever you apply in a particular frequency, for example the acceleration, you'll get a constant output. So by using this device you can understand how the person is pressing the puzzle. Okay, here the puzzle, what we do is we cut the watermelon piece, and we connected 6 devices in different position, and we press whenever the watermelon piece matches with the actual position, then you will get a signal, and that time it will show C. Whenever the 3 matches with the that point, then you will get a self-powered signal. So here it is completely a battery-free device. Okay, and also apart from this puzzle application, this device can be used to understand the force, and also how the way the person press something. Okay, and this is a toy, both duck toy and clapping toy. Here what we did is, this device we connected an LED. Whenever the person pressed, whenever the kids, or mainly we focused to use in a person who have the nerve difficulties, like it's not like exactly paralysis, some difficulty to press and hold, right? Whenever we give some biological, like physiotherapy, some treatment, slowly their muscle motion will increase. So that time, these kind of toys you give, it can, whenever you shake this toy here, the light will glow, and here you press, the LED will glow. So it's a completely a battery-free device. But obviously we changed the actual theme to kids, because that attracted more like viewers, especially the reviewers and the editors. So that's why we projected it as a toy, and it came in a lot of news medias. And even if you check in YouTube battery-free smart toys, you can see this complete video of this one, which ACS prepared for us. And the next one is the mouse. Here we connected a device with the mouse, and whenever you do your operation, by this signal we can understand the pattern. For example, some person will do the work in stress, right? Highly stressed, and some difficulties they might have. So by using these data, you can even interpret and find the motion, the mouse moving pattern, the disturb or he's stressed or something. But I'm not like I didn't did that one here. But these are all the proposed concept by using this device. And this image we proposed for the cover page, but they told that Mickey Mouse is copyright of some other. Disney, so they don't want to publish that. But the paper was published in Sustainable Chemistry. And this is Morse code generator. So this is the device you can see here. By using this device, so you know what is a Morse code. Like Morse code is like long back we used for communication, like this kind of device. But now we reduced into a small pack like this, and we try to generate a codes A, B, C, D, the Morse code dot and dash. So here the small voltage signal shows dot, the bigger one shows dash. So by using that, we used oscilloscope as well as the electrometer, and we tried to develop the pattern. Here you can see that we made Jeju National University and Help Me. And little more advanced, here you need an electrometer or something. So we went to a traditional thing here. We connected with an LED and the device. So what happened, whenever you press small, whenever the small voltage peak comes, the intensity of this light will be less. Whenever the higher peak, the high voltage comes, here the intensity will increase. So by using the intensity difference, we try to name it as a self-powered device. And now, okay, now we are entering into the piezoelectric nanogenerator part, the sensor. Let's see what we did here. Here completely we performed a biomechanical understanding and chemical sensor. That's what we performed here. So this is one sensor which we developed. Okay, so I'm not going to discuss in detail about the material and all which we used. So this is a BTO based material. So alginate BTO based material, piezoelectric material. So what we did here is, here we made a sensor, as well as by using the same material, we made a nanogenerator. So we connected together and we applied a force here. So what happened, this is a completely self-powered pH sensor. So whenever the force is applied, some potential is generated here. That is applied to this sensor. So see here, whenever the pH value varies from 12 to 8, so what happened, the voltage is reducing. That means the resistance is varying, right? So based on that particular concept, we developed this sensor. For here, for this graph, voltage versus the current versus voltage CV curve, we use Keithley, the Keithley instrument, the IV instrument, and here we used nano voltmeter. And this is the band diagram which shows that whenever we introduce with the chemical solution, the pH, the solution, the energy band is increasing, or the variation is there, right? So you can see here there is a change. Like there is a difference between the valence band and the conduction band. Okay. Then we used another device we connected in the sole. So whenever a human motion is there, whenever the body motion, like whenever we walk, we do something, it harvests the energy. And by using the same signal, we can calculate the frequency. You can understand the force that applied on the device by the person. So all these data can be extracted by using only this voltage and current signal. Mostly we go with voltage signal because current signal sometimes we have noise. So we mostly try to extract the data by using voltage signal. But in the case of sensors, the biosensors or something, we depend mostly on current. We try to filter, reduce the noise as much as possible, and we'll get the current data. And the next device is flexion sensor. Flexion is a nerve that we have in our hand. You can see in the like in your lower the elbow. So what we did here is we connected a device as a strip, and we tried to bend each finger. So whenever each finger, the index finger, thumb finger, middle finger, each finger will give a different output. So by using this, we can understand the motion of the finger. So this is not only used for analysis. In the higher end, you can use this for a robotic arm. For example, if you want to control, for example, you have another arm. When you do the motion, the arm should replicate, right? So what we can do, we can connect these kind of sensors and like simple sensor when you do this particular pinky finger, or you want to move the index finger. So this particular voltage, when it comes, that robotic arm will move that corresponding finger. So we can design a system in such a way by using this data. So this is how we expanded our research. And the next thing is a groove-based technique. So here also we kept in the finger like glove. Even we can when you press the what do you call this, the clutches, when you press that one, we can understand how much force you're applying, or how much you're struggling to press that clenches. And the same device we use to find the jaw movement, breathing pattern, and also the neck movement, so for a knee movement. So for all these things, by using the simple voltage signal, we can understand the process. Okay, so that's very like interesting part. So we just use an origin software to like study all these things, and we can propose this kind of devices for an physiotherapist or biomedical engineers, so they can give to their patients or their clients, and they can understand, like they can do a lot of studies. And the last thing here is for analyzing the sleep pattern. So the sensors were connected in different parts of the body, and just a normal CRO we use here. So whenever a person is having an epilepsy, suddenly in between the sleep they might feel epilepsy or some disturbance. So at that point of time, we can identify, is there any motion or any change or anything. So by just using an electrical signal, we can study a lot of things about the patient, as well as elder patient, sleeplessness, the kids. For a security purpose, you can use the kids. If you keep in the bed, if the kids are moving in the night without your notice or something, so that can trigger an alarm also. So these are all a kind of application by using this sensor. So as a conclusion, as I told, that the data conclusion system, like data collection system, is like it's one important, the critical role it plays in our life, especially for engineering person. Not only engineering, the data, like doctors or any profession, it's a very important thing. And also we should improve, we should gather more data by using the sensors, and that helps you to give a better result, efficiency, as well as more like output, like more production. Okay, and a real-time data acquisition system is very much important, because that is the one gadget now the doctors depend, right? You go to a hospital, the doctors need an ECG instrument, EEG instrument. Nowadays, we are using an infrared thermometer, SpO2 sensor. So everything is made upon electronic device, and it has analog to digital conversion circuits. So that's why I emphasize again on the data acquisition part, especially the electronics part is very important for the medical industry. And this is a roadmap view. Just we plan. This is a global view. Around 2027, we are planning for a complete industrialization of by using TENG and piezoelectric device. But almost we have in the 2019 itself, we have all commercial based products. We're trying for some industry, if they wish, they can collaborate and they can take the patent for making the product. So that's our view. And one thing I suggest here is, I hope after this talk, after this lecture, you'll be really motivated, or like you might have a lot of ideas to work. So please don't think whatever the idea comes in your mind, it's like a foolish or anything. Whatever a simple idea that comes, that makes a lot of it makes sometimes a revolution in your research itself. So please make use of even a small idea. And my suggestion is, please note down ideas in diaries, because a lot of things comes in your mind and you forgot, and you try to prioritize your work. We, as a faculty, we have a lot of work, student mark exams, your research, then you have your academic work. So try to prioritize your work. And I suggest one thing is, research is the one at once it comes in your mind, that's there your novelty, you lose your novelty. When it comes in your mind, at the same time, that idea might be in some other's mind. So once it is there, you should prioritize and you start working to complete that project. And most important thing is video and photo of all experiment you do, whatever you do, you take a like you make documentation. That's the most important thing. A small piece of data will give you a big impact publication, even patents. So please keep in your mind that one when you do an experiment. And these are my collaborators from Norway, JJ National University, and we have from Singapore and also from China. I didn't mention here. And the main collaborators, we have IIT Indore, Mandi, and SIPET Bhubaneswar. And these are few cover pages that which we published in the last 2 years. And I would like to acknowledge my professor, Professor Kim Sang Jae, where I did my PhD postdoc, and this was my group there in Jeju. But now the group has been expanded for around 25 members there, and these are a few of my lab achievements in Korea. And these are the field research which we do there: triboelectric, piezoelectric, tribopiezotronics, supercapacitor, biosensor, nanopaints. And some opportunity I want to show here. In South Korea, you have a lot of PhD direct. You can apply to the professor and also to the university. And a program called Korean Graduate Program Scholarship, which I did my PhD through this program. But one thing is compulsory: you have to study Korean for 1 year. Apart from this, for the postdoc, you have to you have to submit. Is that? Just a minute, I'll finish this part. Okay, so you can submit your proposal. You can approach your professor, any professor, and you can submit proposal for postdoc. So you'll get good funding there. And this is the opportunity which we have in our institute. We have we recruit a PhD student and also postdocs through professor supports for applying the NPDF, and also you can check with this portal. And we have more than 10 research centers and school research facility in our institute in Vellore. And these are few of our publication references. And thank you.